Meantime, President-elect Trump renewing his call to gain U.S. control of Greenland, also the Panama Canal, maybe even Canada. Yesterday, he declined to rule out using military and economic coercion to achieve those goals. Joining us right now with more on all this, Marc Caputo is a senior politics reporter for Axios. Good morning to you. We were debating a little bit of this earlier in the broadcast, Marc, and I think we're all trying to figure out how much of this we're supposed to take seriously, how much we're supposed to take as sort of Trump doctrine, a negotiating posture of sorts. How do you view it?
One of the things that was said in, 2016 is not to take Trump, or that his voters didn't always take Trump literally. They took him figuratively. I think by now we had, 12, 13 years of this. We should realize it's both. You have to take him literally. You have to take him figuratively. You have to take him seriously. And sometimes you have to take him unseriously. So the short answer to your question is, I don't know. I don't think any of us knows. The likelihood that we're actually going to acquire Greenland in some way, shape, or form when we've got trillions in debt and a huge budget deficit is pretty slim, considering the narrow margins in Congress, because after all, Congress will probably need to do something about taking over new territory. But nevertheless, Trump wants to do this in some way, shape, or form. And unlike in administrations and campaigns past, Donald Trump has a staff and structure around him that says, well, if Donald Trump says it, then we'll try to make it happen.
Well, how much is it worth, Mark? I mean, I wonder what the Blue Book is. And you remember,
no idea.
If it's not that much money, I disagree that the budget deficit wouldn't allow it. It certainly allows us to expend a lot of money on other things, like help for Ukraine, help for other places.
Sure.
I don't remember what we spent on Alaska, but it was called a folly at the time. I think do you remember what it was? It was in the millions. I don't even think it was in the billions when it happened. And one of the great purchases, obviously, of all time. And Greenland, if it could be done, if you could, we talk about coercion, make them an offer they can't refuse. What does that mean exactly?
That's a good question. Well, in the case of Seward buying Alaska, Tsarist Russia wanted to sell it. In the case of Greenland, Denmark right now doesn't want to.
$7 million. $7 million.
Yep. I'll take two, right?
Exactly.
But in the end, it's not just whether we can afford it or not. It's whether Congress thinks we can afford it or not. There are very narrow margins in Congress. It's just difficult to see. That doesn't mean that Donald Trump isn't serious about it or, grading on a Donald Trump curve, whether he's seriously musing about it. But we should take it seriously. And once he's began talking about this again, remember, he discussed this in 2018 and 2019. People have to take him seriously about it, as campaign does, or better said, his administration does.
But let's sort of walk through the various component parts of what was said. So there's the Greenland piece, which it sounds like if he could purchase it, he would. The question is, if he couldn't purchase it or couldn't afford to or something like that, would he use military force to somehow get it? That's one piece. Then there's the Panama Canal, and then there's Canada as the 51st state in the United States. What do you think is even realistic there? And let's just even talk about the political implications of all of this, which is to say the way Canada, for example, or even the folks in Panama right now are reacting to all of this.
They're about to, I live in Miami. My county commissioner, Kevin Cabrera, is about to be the ambassador for the United States to Panama. And so he's going to have his hands full. I do think that out of the three scenarios you laid out here, Trump is most concerned about Panama, not only because of China's presence as a global power, trade superpower, but also because of the Darien Gap, which is the only land bridge connecting South America with Central and North America, therefore. And that has been a major migrant throughway. And so Donald Trump, who is keenly concerned about trade, about China, and about immigration, is looking at Panama and is very concerned about it. So I think out of the three that we've discussed here, that is the most likely for him to devote more time, policy, and resources toward.
What about the Canada piece, though? Because they are our neighbor. They have been an ally, a great ally. And there are now concerns. You read the papers in Canada, turn on the TVs there. I was reading or seeing some video that was coming across on social media. And they're, it sounds like they're apoplectic about what's happening.
I imagine they are. I mean, Canada, for its entire history, has lived in fear of its barbaric brother to the south, the United States, invading it and taking it over. It opted not to become part of the United States, even though a number of our early founding fathers and our early presidents wanted it to. The conservative leader of Panama, and I must say, or better said, of Canada, whose last name is French, and I therefore can't pronounce it because I, too, am one of these barbarians, he's even discounted this. So this one is a little harder to see out of all of them. The Greenland piece is hard for me to see. The Panama piece is less hard to see out of all three.
Mark, real quick, just finally, and you were talking about the people around him wanting to help him accomplish these things. There was a sense in 2016 that there were people around him who didn't want to help him accomplish things
Correct.
that he talked about, and so that they were almost blocking or preventing certain things or slow-walking things. How different is that today, and how should we think about that?
I wrote in Axios on Monday that his incoming chief of staff was a campaign co-manager, Susie Wiles, who's been with him, stuck with him through thick and thin. She has the understanding of letting Trump be Trump and trying to execute on his vision and hiring people who are loyal to him, loyal to his mission, and believe in getting things done for him and not undermining him. That's why, for instance, we haven't seen what we would have seen in the past, which would have been anonymous staff leaks saying, oh, my God, this guy is crazy. There's no way we're going to do that. Not hearing that anymore. So that's one of the reasons that we have to take the Greenland, the Canada and Panama pieces more seriously, is because his staff does.
Mark, I want to thank you for joining us this morning. We will see